Okay, so now we're ready to look at our next example. The first example we had two vectors that we're going to find the resultant. This time we're going to do 4 vectors. And this really, you just keep adding them tip to tail for however many vectors you have until they're all exhausted. So the next one we're going to do is going to be example 3.6. You will find 3.6 on page 50 in your textbook. And what we're going to do is we're going to graphically determine the combined effect. Remember, this means resultant. So this is going to be, resultant is going to be equal to adding vectors A, B, C, and D. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw each one of these vectors in the original orientation that we see here. So we're going to go over to AutoCAD. And you're just going to simply open up your standard start file, okay? Now, in this case, the lengths of these are in the 200s, 300s. So our lines are going to be pretty long compared to, but we're going to do that same thing where we're going to scale the text, and then we'll also scale the dimensions in the end when we need to find our resultant vector. But in the beginning here, we're simply going to go to our object line layer, and we're going to draw each one of these vectors in the orientation that we see. So vector A is simply going to be a vertical line going straight up. I'm going to turn my thing on, turn my ortho on, and this is going to be 200 units going straight up, okay? Now I'm going to do a zoom extents and just kind of get this so I can see it. Once I have my line there, I'm going to draw my arrows on the end, turn my ortho back off, so that I can represent the arrowhead. Now, again, these don't have to be exact. You don't have to mirror the arrowhead on the other side. It is just to show that this is going straight up, okay? Additionally, I'm going to be adding then my text. So I'm going to grab my A, I'm going to move A, and I'm going to move it to the side of this. Now, it is very, very small, right? So I want to scale this up. I'm going to scale, hit the scale function, select A. I'm going to go right over the top of A here. And then I'm just going to manually kind of pull this away until I feel like the size of it right about there. So that when I do a screenshot later on, the A will be noticeable or seen. Okay. Now, I don't know what scale that was at. I really don't, because all I did was I used my my cursor to kind of pull away from it so that it would get larger and larger. And this is the size I came up with. Yours is probably going to be different. Okay, so that's A. Now I'm going to go to my next one. I'm going to draw B. So B is going to be 226 units long. So 226, I need to do at 226. And then the tab is going to get me to my angle. So you'll notice that this angle is 15 degrees from what would be, if we go in this direction, this would be 0 degrees. This would be 180 to that side. So 180 minus 15, what would that be? 165? 165. There we go. That looks good. Okay. So then now at the end point here, B's arrowhead is going up and to the left. So here is that. Okay. And now I'm going to copy over my scaled A. And this is going to be B. There we go. Okay. Then we're going to go to the next one. So I'll let you draw the next two, C and D. Go ahead and do that. And this is where it just becomes really important to take your time, make sure everything is correct. So that in the end, if you get the right answer, then you know it was all set up correctly. If you don't, then there was probably something along the way here that wasn't keyed in correctly or drawn quite right to the right length or angle. And that would be where you would start with troubleshooting. And then don't forget to save it as example 3.6. Give you a chance to get that going. Now, anything as far as the start file that you don't use, you want to delete that. So, it's not in there. And now we have our items drawn. Once you have each of your vectors drawn and labeled and you're confident in the length and the orientation, what I like to do next is to make sure that I get my vector equation written out. Okay. Now, since I have these scaled, I'm simply going to copy my A, and I'm going to put it down at the bottom here. I think most of the vector equation is going to be at the top. I'm just going to double click on that. And this is going to be R is equal to A. And this is going to be plus, and then use the greater than symbol, B, and then plus greater than symbol, C, and plus greater than symbol, D. Now, if you end up not making that long enough, that's okay. Just double click on it again. And then you're going to put your cursor over on the right-hand side and then drag that box so that it's long enough so you see the equation on one line. Okay. Now, what this tells me is this is the order that we are going to be adding these vectors in, which is consistent with the book. Now, is there a reason to do any one of these in a different order? No. But there isn't a reason not to either. All right. So if you choose in any of the examples or the assignments that you do, and you do it in a different order, as long as you identify it in your vector equation, you're fine. Unless the book identifies added in this order, here's the equation, then you have to add it in that order. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. But if you have the freedom, especially when it says find the net effect or find the combined effect, it's not telling you what order to add these in. Okay. But we're going to just do it in alphabetical order for no other reason than it's alphabetical order. That's it. Now, since we are going to start with A, remember, we're going to do everything on the right-hand side of the equal sign. So that means, remember, our equal sign is our origin. So we need to draw the origin. Never forget that. So I'm going to draw my origin in place here. Line and line. Now, A takes over one of those parts of the origin. That's okay because it's going vertical. So you don't have to redraw another line there. And I wouldn't put an origin as part of your start file because you're always going to be scaling it. This way you have the freedom at the beginning to just draw the lines in there so that they're large enough so that you can see it as part of what would be a screenshot later on. Okay. So I've got A in place. The tail of A is starting at the origin and the tip now is going straight up. Since B is going to be my next vector, I'm going to move B. So I'm going to put in a window around B, enter. The base position is going to be the tail of B, and it's going to be placed at the tip of A. Okay. Now I'm going to go to C is next. I'm going to move C. Enter. And the tail of C is going to go to the tip of B. And then I'm going to move our last vector, D, enter. The tail of D is going to go to the tip of C. Okay. Once I have all four of those in position, okay, which I do, now I'm ready to cross back over the equal sign, which means I'm going to start back at my origin and I'm going to draw my resultant. I'm going to put my resultant on object 2 layer. Since the resultant is going back over the equal sign and we're starting at the origin, the tail of my resultant vector is going to start at the origin and its tip is going to go to the tip of the last vector on the right-hand side. So that means that my tip of my resultant is going to be out here at the end of D. So I'm going to draw a line. And again, I'm going to make this noticeably longer just because I want to make sure I can see that vector. Okay. And then this is my resultant. So I'm going to call this vector R. Okay. So I'm going to double click. I'm just going to copy one of the other letters that are there. I copied A, and this is going to be R. Okay. Now remember, the given vectors A, B, C, and D, we are not adding dimensions or angles to them, okay? There'll be too many dimensions to just stick on here. We're just gonna make sure that they are labeled and they have their arrowhead appropriate and that you drew them accurately, okay? The only one in our problem that we're handing in that is gonna be dimensioned with magnitude and direction or angle is going to be our resultant, okay? And remember, these are all vectors. They need arrowheads. We are not drawing lines. We are drawing vectors, okay? Now, we're going to switch to the notes layer so that we can get the magnitude of our resultant to start off with. So we're going to do an aligned dimension, and we're going to go to the endpoint and the endpoint, and we cannot see that number, okay? I wasn't expecting to. So we're going to go into annotate again, arrow down, modify, fit tab, and here I'm gonna go 50 because this is like really, you got to go up to 100. Okay, well, we'll see. Set. Yeah, this is a little small compared. So Garrett said he did 100. So I'll go back over to annotate down, and this is the thing you're gonna have to play with just a little bit, but it's only one number on the fit tab. So we will do 100, okay, set current, and close. That looks perfect. Yeah, I like it. And so our number magnitude-wise comes out to be 420.69. They have 421. So yes, we are totally right there. And I'm going to leave my 4 decimal places. I'm not worried about just being to exactly what they are, but ours would round up to 521, right? Am I done? No. Oh, Garrett's like, absolutely not. What am I missing? What do I need? I need an angular dimension. Yes. So I'm going to go back to my home, go to the angle dimension. We've got to go from a horizontal or a vertical. Do not go in relationship to another vector unless it's on a horizontal or vertical axis. Okay. So we're going to do the horizontal just because that's what they're using. So horizontal to our vector. And I'm going to scooch it in right here before my dimension. Now I've got 69 and they have 68. As I said earlier, I did this before. Actually, I watched the video and it was 69 as well. And it was done each time. So I believe it's just a rounding error probably. And as long as, like I said earlier, as long as you're within at least 1 degree, if we start getting 2s and 3s off, then probably something's not quite right. Or maybe you didn't select in the right area. But being off by 1 and also confirmed, I feel comfortable with that. So I would be ready now at this point to add this to my module 2 practice problems document that I will be handing in. So just a screenshot of the area here, making sure that whatever size that is, that you can see it really well. Most importantly, make sure that the scale on that fit tab is appropriate so I can see the number and that these are in as dimensions. They cannot be in, you know, fudging it in as a number. Don't draw a note and say, oh, I measured it. It was 521. No. You've got to show me the dimension and then you got to do the fit to the right scale so that we can see it. All right. So then you just want to do a quick save on that. And that's example 3.6.